This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
Police in Las Vegas found themselves in the middle of a UFO mystery last month after
To us, big eyes. They have big eyes.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
And welcome to another amazing episode of the Mythical Legends podcast. My name's Daniel Barnett. If none of you have seen this podcast before, it is amazing, and we have an amazing episode lined up for you guys today, I promise you. So we have a co-host today who is who is co-founder of the UK BRT here in the UK, short for UK Bigfoot Research Team, and he does an amazing job with me. And we're doing all sorts of research here in the UK. We then have an amazing guest who I think you guys are really gonna like. So let's bring our co-host on, have a little chat with him first, and then we'll get our amazing guest on to have a great podcast with him. So please welcome Chris Alsford.
Hi,
Chris,
Daniel.
how are you, mate?
I'm good, and you?
Right? Yeah, very, very well. I'm very, very excited about today's guest. You?
Yes, but I'm more mature than you, so I can't show it.
Well, yes. We have. He's very, very interesting, and I've probably done the last hour and a half on research on him because it's really, really interesting looking into him. And I think it's going to be a very, very good conversation. Will you agree?
We're talking about a man that spends his life looking into cryptozoological mysteries and spends his nights in a rock band. I mean, this guy is like literally top dog, you know.
Yeah.
He is where we all aspire to be.
So I think he does music during the night, and he kind of switches masks, does brilliant research during the day, and absolutely rocking music at night.
You could say he has two hats, but he doesn't. I don't think.
Amazing. Right, let's get this guy on and have an amazing conversation with him. So everyone, if you wanted to ask this person a question, please just shove it in the comments, and I will pass it along to him, or you can message him. I'm sure he won't mind that. But for now, let's welcome our guest, Lyle Blackburn. Hey mate, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
You are more than welcome, Lyle. So I'm gonna jump straight in there, and I'm gonna go. Could you tell us how you got interested into the cryptid world?
Well, I was born in Texas, born and raised, and I still live in Texas. And from a very early age, I just was enthralled by movie monsters. I remember my first memories were, watching old black and white monster films. And later on, I got a book when I was in elementary school called Strange But True. And that had stories of Bigfoot, Yeti, Loch Ness Monster, all the things that were, kind of headliner creatures at the time. And I'm reading this thinking, wait a minute, this is like, quote unquote monsters that you might actually see in real life. And so that really captured my imagination. But I felt I was fairly safe because I live in Texas, and, Bigfoot was sort of primarily thought of as living in the Pacific Northwest at the time. And, Nessie is far away in Scotland, and the Yeti is in the Himalayas, wherever that was, and but that all changed when I saw a movie called The Legend of Boggy Creek, which came out in the early 1970s and showed for a long time in drive-ins and theaters and even on television, and was later circulated. I mean, even see that in the UK at some point. And that dramatized sightings of a Sasquatch-like creature in southern Arkansas, which was right across the border out of Texas. That was only about 3 hours from where I lived. And this creature, according to the movie and the eyewitnesses, was quite scary and aggressive, sort of like a rogue Sasquatch that lived in these swampy bottomlands of southern Arkansas. So that kind of put me in the zone of, well, there are things that could be in my area. So that just began a lifelong fascination with this. And as you kind of mentioned, I became a musician and spent many years touring around the world and doing all that kind of stuff. And I've always wanted to write a book, and I was writing for a horror magazine called Rue Morgue. And I thought, well, if I wrote a book, what is my favorite topic? What do I love most? What would I most want to write a book about? And that was The Legend of Boggy Creek, as far as like the making of that movie and what were the real sightings, because it was based on a true story. So that kind of just put me in that investigator mode, to go up there and start talking to people and gather up all the newspaper reports and what have you. And so when my first book, The Beast of Boggy Creek, came out quite a while ago, that just kind of was something that Bigfoot enthusiasts were very, into. Everybody had seen this film, when they were like your age and had been fascinated as I was. So I kind of picked the right topic, and I approached it in a very balanced way. And from there, it just, then I kind of just juggled music and monster hunting and book writing, and I still do.
So it's so kind of, in a way, Lyle, you have multiple hats that you wear, different times of the day. Let's say that.
Right. Yeah. It kind of can flip flop, but it seems like, I mean, I do well as an author and things like that, and it's nice. But I can seem to just eat up all those profits in driving around doing research and other things. So having the band as sort of that extra income allows me to just do what I want. I can, I choose book topics to pursue or to research stuff or do whatever I need to do and not have to worry about, what I think people envision, like, oh, well, you're magically funded by some unnamed millionaire. And, like you guys, you can go out in the woods and you just do this. Well, somewhere you got to have the money for the gas and the time and everything else. So, I've been lucky in that regard to where I can just do all this stuff full time and do really what I want.
And I can say that if you didn't have the band like you have, so like me and Chris and our team, it's not a money making business, it's a money losing business. I'll say that. It's you've got to try and balance kind of what you need and what you don't need, and we are slowly making it to some of the equipment where I go, oh my god, I have this equipment. And but yes, I really applaud you for that now. A great way to live, I think.
Right. And it's fun. I mean, it's hard to give up the rock and roll bands, because that has been what I've done for a very long time, almost since your age, playing in actual recording bands. And so that's a lot of fun. And I mean, one time I got to record an album. This was when we were on another label, and I got to spend a month in the UK recording that album. So we would just pick producers, and I just basically got a free month to go explore an amazing new country. So that also provided me a way to network with a larger group of people, and to also go in places, and be able to learn of other cultures and interact. So if I read about a report of Bigfoot in the UK, while I can't just go drive there, I've been there. I've driven around the country. I've been from everything in London to small towns, and it gives me a good sense of that geography, a worldwide geography that kind of helps with cryptids.
May I ask, Lyle, whereabouts in the UK do you remember you've been?
Played London a number of times, and when we recorded that album, we spent time in the Bidford upon Avon,
Bedford, yeah.
which was actually a bit of a rural area, but there was a producer who had a studio on a farm out there, and he'd done some albums by bands like Cathedral that we liked that were very heavy. So we just told the label we needed to go there, and it was very cool because it was a little more of a rural environment. So not just like in the same city or just whatever. And that was very cool.
Well, I can say that not many big researchers, because I put you in really high regards, and not many researchers kind of know the UK. They're not in the UK or haven't been. But the fact that you've actually been here to the UK, it means that you understand a bit about our area, which is really nice to hear. And yeah, so Chris, did you have a question for Lau?
Yes. Well, first of all, Legend of Boggy Creek. That was my downfall as well. It did appear on the TV here, I think, around about 1982, and it must have been about that time, yeah. And that's what got me in. That sucked me in. So I mean, again, fixed with the Legend of Boggy Creek now, but you've been to all these areas. Have you ever actually had an experience with a Bigfoot? And if not, what have you run into?
Well, there's been a number of incidents that involved, mysterious howls. I was chasing something through the Ocala National Forest once in Florida that I felt could have been a skunk ape, but most of those incidents didn't result in me actually seeing, whatever howled or things like that. However, I have had what I believe, I don't want to say 100% it was a sighting because it was brief and I didn't see the whole creature, if you will, but that was in the Boggy Creek area and in a place where we have done a lot of research and there's a lot of sightings that have happened in that area, very somewhat near to some of the things that were happening in the Legend of Boggy Creek movie. And so basically what happened was it was afternoon, it was around 3 p.m. and me and a research partner were on our way to visit a woman who had recorded some very interesting howls and claimed that, the creature or the creatures had been coming around her home. And so we had been up in town talking to some of the locals and just hanging out, and we dropped by this Mercer Bayou area on our way down to meet this woman, and I was just literally standing there and we were looking at some trees that you can see in one of the Monster Quest episodes and just looking at the growth of trees and stuff, and I saw something that kind of captured my eye, like some movement in the woods, which was across this bayou channel, maybe about 60, 70 yards away. And I was looking and like, was that something moving, or was that just the way the trees were, the leaves or what have you? And as I focused in on the area, I saw this very large something walk kind of between the thickly wooded areas across an open area and disappear into the woods. And it was whatever it was very large, and it was reddish in color,
Hmm.
quite red. And so obviously it stood out. This is a place where there are no people. I've been up there for 13, 14 years. I've never seen another person over there. It's not, people don't own that property. It's public property. And to get over there, you really need a boat
Mhm.
to get across these swamp, because there's alligators and stuff right there. And so, I saw it for just those seconds, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't a person. It was very
Mm.
large. And here's the kicker. And it was red, which is not something you often associate with Bigfoot. But we had literally just been in the town, and we were talking to a local who said he swore he saw the creature a short time earlier. Within weeks, he said it ran across a road, and it was a road where there's been a lot of sightings. He said to him it looked very much kind of like an orangutan. It was very reddish and orangish in
Yeah.
hue. And that's what I saw. I wish I was closer, and it had been a little bit more in the open, because I would have had a much better view.
Mm.
And I could not chase it. And trust me, I would have.
Yeah.
There's that bayou channel with this dark, briny water that you do not want to go through. We didn't have a boat or anything. Like I said, we were on our way to talk to this woman. So it was as brief as that. And later on, next time we came back up there, we brought the boat, went over, tried to sort of, finding Bigfoot, that thing, and put a guy over there and try to estimate the size and do all that kind of stuff. But of course, by then, whatever it was long gone.
No, it's fantastic. Fantastic, though. Still a lot of mystery in there, but a lot of evidence to support you saw the big guy.
Right. And I don't want to claim anything. I just say what I saw, just like in my books. I'm not. It just keeps you on that path, though. It's something that I always felt like that was the best area, and kind of the areas a little south of that where that woman had the howls. These are the areas that in modern times are getting the most of the reports, because that's the area that stayed the most wild and the most like it was back in the day when they filmed the movie. And so it does kind of fit in with everything else that I've been seeing and logging, and the people I've talked to as far as witnesses. This is the area. So it just shows me that we or whatever are on the right path. So that's pretty much the area we target when we go up there and camp and look into the woods.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. And Lyle, I will say, so a question that's kind of off track, I would say. Do you think Bigfoot is primate?
Well, of course, I think we all kind of started with that, just the base level hypothesis that Bigfoot is some sort of a terrestrial creature. It's probably an undiscovered primate. If not that, something more related to hominid, something closer to us. And, I don't, without having one to look at, no one can really say. And I think now, of course, there's a lot of other theories, because we're looking at 50 plus years of heavy duty research, starting with like Roger Patterson and going up to now with the technology of people like, there's undoubtedly people who see Bigfoot. I mean, even if we say, well, 90% of those people were mistaken, or it was like me, it was too quick and you can't say for sure. There is a core of those witnesses that you just can't dismiss what they saw, and they're not lying, they're not hallucinating. They were close enough to it to say, yes, this was not a human, it's not a gorilla, it's something unknown, and it fits the description of Bigfoot. So, but we have these witnesses, yet we still don't have proof. So that sort of, elicits wilder theories, like it's jumping through dimensions, or they're from outer space, or whatever. I don't know. I don't claim to know anything more than anybody else, and I don't dismiss anybody's theories because that's how you work. That's how science work. You propose a theory and you try to support that. But for me, I kind of just like the romantic notion that this is some sort of, strange, undiscovered
Mystery.
primate that's sort of lived right under our noses the whole time, and we find it, and it's not a mythical being, and it's not an alien. It's just something very cool that our Earth still has kept a secret.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is because the research that we've done here in the UK is unusual, and when people say it's all separate, I think of everyone's individual research can put together to kind of a big community. And I don't know if you've heard about my primate DNA that I found. And I just wanted to kind of see what your opinion was, because a lot of people, there's two sides that people think there is, and I'm in the middle. And I think you are too, where I go, I don't know. It could be this. It could be this. Other than that, it's just a fun mystery that we can kind of enjoy. And I think that's a very very good way to kind of think of the Bigfoot mystery, because you then either go, you're agreeing with this side or agreeing with this side, and some people think it's paranormal, UFOs, that kind of side, and then people think it's absolutely flesh and blood. It's that I just enjoy the mystery of kind of, could be either, it could be this, it could be that, and I think that's a very very good way to kind of put your research. Would you agree?
Totally. I couldn't said it better myself. That's the way I think it's fun, and to argue over what is essentially speculation, and to get mad about it is just a big fat waste of time. I mean,
Yeah.
this is fun. It's a mystery, no matter what it is. I mean, maybe none of the above. And if all you can do is just get out there and try to find, like you're doing, you got eDNA or something, you're trying to follow the clues, and that's fun. And it's not about getting on the internet and arguing over something you can't prove. So I don't care what people's opinions are, as long as you like to have fun, go in the woods and look for Bigfoot. It's totally cool.
I saw somebody posted a video there the other day in one of the groups, and the first comment said that's fake. He doesn't take such short strides or such long strides. So I asked him, I said, what's Bigfoot's inside leg? I didn't get an answer. They're just looking for an argument, and nobody actually has the truth. Nobody actually knows.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like they speak like it from an authority, like like if you're a primatologist and you've studied apes for 30 years and their personality and traits, you can comment with authority and say, no, they don't do that, they do this. Do they use tools, or do they don't, or whatever? Well, nobody has a Bigfoot to study, so there is no absolute answers. It's just strictly opinion. So the way this should be worded is, to me, it would seem like they would have a longer stride. So to me, that seems more human, but that's my opinion. That's the way it needs to be worded. It's okay if you believe, if your gut instinct is that's not a Sasquatch based on what you kind of feel, but you have to, preface that with, in my opinion, is this.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. In my opinion.
The next thing, that's the problem.
It's where everyone is entitled to their own opinions. I have my opinion, you have your opinion, Chris has his own opinion, but then the bit where it makes me go, oh, this isn't fun anymore, is where people start arguing with that opinion, going, no, I'm right and you're wrong, and I go, well, how do you know? And then they try, and that's not fun when they try and do that, and that's when it kind of and I go, okay, bye bye,
Yeah.
and kind of move on.
Good advice there, Daniel. When you get to that stage, is switch Facebook off and put on the Legend of Boggy Creek again.
Right.
Revitalize your desires. There.
Yes.
Lyle, if I could ask you another question there, you've done the documentary about the Mothman, and yeah, where are you? If you're given a choice now? Here you go. That you're going to make a documentary. What direction are you going to go? Which cryptid would be your go-to?
Well, I think if I just had some money lumped on me and to do a cryptid documentary, I would probably do something on the orang pendek from Sumatra. I mean, I know it's in the Bigfoot category, but I think it's one that's been less covered, although it's one that I think, right there.
Yeah, but we have a friend, Richard Freeman, who is done a lot of research into that and written a couple of books.
Right. Yeah. I know Richard, and I think that's one that has some promising, credible evidence and some good sightings over the years, and it's in a place where I think this creature could actually survive, and be fairly undetected over the years. So that would be one I would like to see some more. And a lot of times you don't see some of the more international stuff. I mean, the Yeti is done to death because TV shows really like to go for that. The orang pendek is a little less known, but I think that's one that could be proven if you had the money. And of course, when you do international stuff like that, you got to deal with flying over there. You got to deal with the culture. You got to have a lot of other things other than just, hey, let's drive up to Boggy Creek or something.
I think the orang pendek is it's one that you perceive you've got a possibility of capturing it. At 8 to 10 foot tall, 1,000-pound gorilla, you're not catching. Not with a lot of equipment, you're still not going to catch it. But a 1 meter, 1.2 meter tall version of that creature, you're in with a slim chance. So yeah.
Right, a little better chance, you
might make it out of it. Yeah,
I could probably tackle it, and for a second there, had it. But after it threw me, and then it took my hat and ran into the woods.
That's it. Yeah.
Lyle, I will ask you this question. With the mystery that goes along with every cryptid, I would say I base it on Bigfoot because I know more about Bigfoot, but any cryptid really. Do you think it would be better to find Bigfoot or orang pendek and really research it, or to kind of have the mystery and kind of leave it alone? Because as humans are, we are kind of destroying the earth. So are we going, do we have the mystery, have fun with it, or do we find it and which one do you think?
It's hard to say. I mean, there's good and bad on both sides. You hope that you can solve at least a few of these, even one of them. Like if you found one cryptid, then you're like, well, wow, maybe there is more to these other ones, so it opens up a world of possibility there. But yeah, it's like, I don't know if humans can be responsible enough if we proved something of that magnitude like Bigfoot, that it wouldn't just turn into a giant circus. And and we're already destroying every other creature's habitat. We're just gonna tragically destroy that. And especially if they're highly endangered, which I believe they are, just cannot be that many of them running around. That's the downside. And also sort of like it's fun because it's a mystery. If we found Bigfoot and it turned out to be, well, it's not 7 or 8 feet tall, it's just 5 foot, and it's just kind of ordinary, if it as things seem to be when you actually find them, it might drop the mystique because, Bigfoot means a lot to a lot of people, whether they research it hardcore or it's just a kid who loves Bigfoot and loves the woods because he loves Bigfoot. So it's a very slippery slope on whether finding something like this would be a benefit to us or the creature itself. So I'm good with either way.
And a downside to, I think, if we did find Bigfoot, I think some people would get scared, and I think some people would go out and shoot these creatures and try and kind of and make it their activity. And I think I'm like, because that's what people do these days. I'm like, would that be the benefit to us, or would that be a benefit to them? It's kind of and again, I'm with you with that one, that in between there is good side to finding Bigfoot for the scientific side, but then I also very 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 much enjoy going out the forest and being scared, for if any creature comes out and stands in front of me, and I like that mystery side of stuff, which I think that's what makes Bigfoot Bigfoot, if you know what I mean. If it was a creature, I'm not sure people would think of Bigfoot in the same way as we do currently right now. Now, you touched on it earlier, but I will say, what is your opinion on the Patterson Gimlin film?
Well, I'd like to believe that's a Sasquatch, and I can understand the arguments on both sides, because it's a little. It could go either way. I've been friends with Bob Gimlin for for a decade or more, and that gives me a little more perspective on whether I think that those guys perpetrated a hoax or something. And from what I know and learned about Bob and the fact, he's never made any money off this and other things, I feel it's pretty unlikely that he would have any motivation to keep his mouth shut if it was a hoax. And he maintains that that's what they saw. What you see on film it's not a person. It's not a person in a suit. So I give him that credit, and for me, again, I try to be well balanced. I'm not going to sit here and claim, oh, that's absolutely a Sasquatch. I can't jump in that film and touch Patty, so I cannot back that up. But just my feeling is I'm more way towards that is a real creature than not.
Yeah, and I think that's a very, very good way. And within your whole kind of research, I think it's a very, very good way to kind of have your mind, because you're open to kind of everything that goes on. I think that's a really, really good way of putting stuff. Don't you think, Chris? It's a way that it's really nice to kind of have. It could be not. And I think, Lyle, it's a really, really good way to research. So well done to you. So I'm move on completely now, and I'm gonna go on to the topic of your podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about that for me?
Well, people have asked me about doing a podcast for a while because I was doing the narration voice of the Small Town Monsters movies. I think I've narrated 9 of those now. And so, I'm just so busy that I never could quite do it. And I also felt like over the years, there's so many podcasts and so many interviews, just like, what am I going to add? There's a lot of great guys like you interviewing people. So my podcast, I said, finally, I will just attempt to do one and try something different, which is a more narrated monologue approach about different cases or my involvement, to where it's a little bit of an audio adventure as I lead people through the facts of these sometimes spooky cases. So my podcast is called Monstro Bizarro, and it covers cryptids and some other. I mean, I've covered the Highgate vampire in my vampire episode, but that's another thing that people say: or do they exist or do they not? It's a bit of a cryptid in a way, but just a spooky like monster thing. So I cover monsters and things like that, and I've done I've done 14 episodes or so is what I've managed to get done. So I just kind of do them as I have time, but there's something that you can just pick up and listen to anytime. And the feedback has been just 100% overwhelming. People love the format. It's different and it's unique to me, and kind of carries that small town monsters vibe of what we have done in the films to something that people can just put in their earphones and listen to it at work or whatever.
Yeah, and that is probably one of the best things ever. Sat and even now, sat here listening to you, Lyle, is incredible. And I'm like, when you're listening to all these people's stories, it's quite a rewarding thing to kind of see and kind of listen to, because everyone has slightly different stories. I've never had a story that's the same, and I've only done 21 episodes myself, so it's kind of amazing to kind of start off in this world. And I will definitely give your podcast a listen to, and to everyone out there, I would love for you to do the same. Have a listen, because it can be quite calming sometimes. So have a listen. So now I'm gonna kind of move on to, could you tell us about some of your own research that you've done out in the field in the past few years?
Well, I would say I've mostly field research has been primarily in terms of Bigfoot. I haven't done a lot of lake monsters. We don't have a lot of lake monsters here in the South U.S. And I like to concentrate on the South because people. There's a lot of books written about Pacific Northwest Bigfoot and other things, and there's a lot of cool sightings and lore and cryptids, in Texas and the South. So a lot of my stuff has been sort of in that southeast portion of the U.S., from Texas, up to Oklahoma, Arkansas, all over to South Carolina and Florida, in all those areas. And I've gone into just different national forests, a lot of swamps. I've been in numerous swamps. Wrote a book called Sinister Swamps, which kind of incorporates my visits to all these different swamps. And the research is like anybody else's. It consists of going to the places where the sightings have occurred, looking for footprints, putting up game cameras, interviewing other witnesses to try to gauge the other validity of the other sightings. I have some amount of equipment, thermal imagers and some audio devices. And so, that's resulted in, some, like I said, some weird howls and some footprints that we found over time, and other, other things like that. So all of it's been fun. And, I don't offer any definitive proof, and I just keep searching for, like a better footprint or a picture or something. You're just always trying to do that. While at the same time, a lot of my research has been focused by, if I'm working on a book, that gives me some kind of focus, because I like that, and it puts me in new places, and it kind of guides that journey. Like when I'm doing the swamp book, okay, well, here's a swamp that has a lot of sightings and creatures in Georgia or weird phenomenon. Okay, let's go there. And so that that kind of focus, or if I was doing the Lizard Man book, I went to Bishopville, South Carolina, and talked to people and police personnel and other people who had been involved in sightings of some sort of upright reptilian humanoid thing. So those are fun because those stories unfold. And then I go into the swamp. I go to the place where people said they've seen this. And of course, this is a bit of luck involved. They saw it there. Well, it doesn't mean I'm going to see it, but I'm hopeful of that. And I do try to put myself in those places because I'm more likely to see something if I'm in those areas than if I'm not. So that's kind of my research agenda.
Wow. And to kind of go on top of that, what do you reckon the most important piece of equipment is when going out in the field?
Well, I would say a camera, but maybe a high def camera, one that's not blurry. That would be helpful if there was some compelling photos, albeit especially now. I mean, every minute the technology updates to the point where nobody's going to trust a photo. But I don't think taking a photo is what we're asking for proof. That's just maybe for your own, you've captured what you saw, and you can share it certainly among fellow researchers that will believe you. And you say, "This is what I saw. We need to go there. Look." And then, you definitely need to have casting material, hydrocal or whatever you use, because you're going to find a footprint when you do not have your casting material. That's the law of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So I think having casting material, because a footprint, again, it's a bit of a trophy, and it's cool to find, and it may provide some limited glimpse into what these creatures might be and their biological makeup, but it's still important. And same with the photo. It's not going to prove to anybody that it exists, because people will say, "Well, you just made that track," But these are things that help, and they help fire you up for the journey. Like if you come home with a track, like, "Look at this track I found," it don't matter if nobody else believes it. You feel good, and you feel like you're not wasting your time. So those kind of things to me are what we need. And ultimately, we advance to technology like eDNA or just flat out DNA. If we had a portion of something to test, those are going to be more valid scientific proof, short of just driving up in the truck and saying, here's one.
What we all need is a Bigfoot to come out and stand in front of us, and we just say, "Wait there," and we take some pairs, we take some eDNA, we take the arm, and then go, "Right, we've got this," and then that would prove it. And
you come in a full circle there, Daniel, because then you prove it. You've got it. You've got the film. You've got the DNA. You've got pictures of you holding the creature's hand. What are you going to do? Because the next guy that sees it with a gun is going to go and try and hunt it. So
yeah,
you end up,
very
what
true.
do? You keep it in the small circle we have, and everybody says, "Okay, that's it." Now I want to do the same, and off they go.
You just trust that nobody will believe you anyways, you made that up. That's not real DNA, because that's how it works. And then you just say the government came and took everything. I don't even have it. Every time somebody gets a body, suddenly the men in black show up, the body's gone. So it's just like a never ending circle of no one can quite prove it or not prove it.
Yeah.
With the DNA that I got, someone accused me of planting Bigfoot hairs in the forest. Now, that's how ridiculous it got.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna encounter with humans.
The obvious question, though, if you planted the Bigfoot hair in the forest, where did you get the Bigfoot hair from?
Exactly.
And And going back to like the footprint side stuff, apart from standing there in shock, I can say that I have felt myself, as in that I did have something in front of me, and I luckily casted it. It's now safe in a box, but I can say that yeah, having that cast with us was probably one of the most rewarding things that we kind of had, because we've done this, we've made the effort, gone out, and we found this strange print, and yeah, I can say that some of it can be really, really exciting, and some of it can be kind of scary if something's in front of you, but it can be very, very rewarding to go that your kind of work has paid off, if you know what I mean.
Right. You need some of those, because most of the time you go and it's a bust. You don't find anything. So when you do, you need those things to kind of keep you going when you're spending your own time and money and you're looking into something that none of us may ever solve. So, those things are good. And people, again, that's part of the fun of it, and people should focus on the fun, because that's maybe all we get out of it.
Yeah. And the exercise, right? The exercise.
Yeah, that's good. Getting into nature. I mean, we should all be in nature more, So
yeah.
It is. I say that a lot when I'm speaking at a library or something like that, and there's kids and things, say, whether these things turn out to be real or not, or whether we prove them or don't prove them, they have a great value, because, you tell a kid, hey, we're going to the woods. They're like, hey, we're going to go look for Bigfoot. Really? And they're out in nature, and we need to. That's what I like most about cryptids and stuff. I like all weird phenomenon and ghosts and everything else, but the whole thing with cryptids and creatures is it's a direct tie to nature. You have to go in the woods, or it involves the woods, and everything else about it, which I really love. I grew up hunting with my father. I mean, I was as far back as I can have any memories. I'm on a hunting leash, out in the woods, camping and doing all that stuff. And so, of course, I love that stuff. And anything that can keep us connected to our nature, especially in a high-tech world as we live in, where people are looking at their phones instead of looking at a cool tree, that's super important. And I like that about cryptozoology.
Yeah, and it's just I ran my first Bigfoot convention, and actually it was the first Bigfoot convention here in the UK, and we had a few kids turned up, and the fact that I stood there and went, these kids may in fact go out to the forest and do what I do, and go out, and I go, that's the aim. Not the aim to get famous, not the aim to do any of that. The aim is to get more people out there, and I think that's probably one of the biggest messages I could ever say. And it's probably an amazing thing. So my last few questions for you, Lyle, because I've really, really enjoyed this. I will say, one question I just have to ask: was your band currently based off any cryptids or any of your research? Because I love the title to your band. I think it's brilliant.
Ghoultown is not just very separate than my research or cryptid studies. When I came up with the band, it was its own. A lot of it's Texas, kind of that dark outlaw Western stuff, and I grew up with a lot of that. So the band incorporates mostly that image, and something that's unique. When people, whether they like the band or don't like the band, and typically they remember the band just because we have a unique kind of that dark Western image. So, but yeah, there's no ties to any of the cryptids, and I've tried on occasion to kind of write a song that but it just didn't quite work. It's really hard to write a song that like about Bigfoot that doesn't sound cheesy or something in a way. So it just sort of is its own thing. And then what I do here is, even though they do merge a lot, because over the years, a lot of my readers and people who follow my monster stuff discover the band and like, oh my gosh, the band is really cool too. So they do merge fan wise, but not in topics.
Wow, it was just so it was like, is this related to cryptids or is it not? Because I do love the title. So my final question for you, Lyle, is what is the most important piece of advice you would give someone who's starting to research cryptids?
I would say, if you are going to research cryptids, which involves going into the woods or into places that could be potentially dangerous, you need to take with you the necessary items. You don't just stroll out into the woods. You need to have basic, water, and prepare for unforeseen circumstances. I mean, where I am, I've walked right around rattlesnakes and cottonmouth and alligators and all other stuff that is way more dangerous than potentially than a Bigfoot, except maybe Boggy Creek where it's aggressive. but yeah, just know your surroundings, know where you're going. Think ahead about the things that are dangerous out there and be prepared for that so that you can enjoy yourself and come out safe.
Yeah, and that is one of the reasons why, and I will say this, is here in UK, we have no predators, no bears, no alligators, no crocodiles, no snakes, nothing. Which kind of go, we are able to kind of go out into the forest not worrying about that side of stuff. Apart from possibly having a 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot creature in the woods, which is worrying enough. But yeah, I think that apart from we may have big cats now I hear. But yeah, so it's a really, really nice world to be in. And Lyle,
don't lure Lyle into a false sense of security when he visits. We do have the adder, and it's a very fat and lazy snake that will try and waddle away from you. But if it does bite you, you've literally got 3 days before you start getting really poorly. It's not to be sniffed at,
Yeah, right. It's not all cake and icing there.
That's right. Yes.
Always something. Yeah. Apparently, we got vampires in cemeteries, so there can be any number of dangers. But yeah, it sounds like a great place to research without having to worry about cottonmouth hanging from the trees when you could glaring at you like, look, dudes, we're just passing by. But yeah, those are some of the things I've encountered. I've come upon bears in the wild on 2 occasions, and that's a little bit disconcerting, but I was prepared. I mean, I was in areas where there are a lot of bears, and I had bear mace, and I'm always armed with a sidearm. So, I was prepared, so I didn't feel like, but, yeah, your romantic views of the wild are one thing, but when you're out there in it, beware.
Yeah, I don't really fancy being eaten by a bear, Lyle. I would like to live on a bit longer. I don't really want to be eaten by a bear.
Right. I don't like the claws. That's the bears. Those super long, razor sharp claws is what I do not want to see coming at me. I'd rather be attacked by a Bigfoot than a bear. And that would make a better story, because even if we're not here, you can cover it on your podcast. Blackburn killed by Bigfoot. I mean, yeah. I'm offering a good story there. If I got killed by a bear, I sound like an amateur.
Yeah.
So Lyle, I want to thank you for this interview, because it's been an amazing interview, and it's been lovely chatting with you. And I can say, Chris, both me and Chris can say
Yeah.
thank you so much, because that
Definitely,
was amazing.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. Well, thank you.
And one thing I will say, both myself, Dad, and Chris, and we're planning to come over to Ohio in June for Monster Fest, and I hear that you are over there as well, which means I will definitely come and see you if you're if we manage to get there. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be super
amazing.
cool. I'll be there this year, and that's a fun event. So yeah, that'd be super cool if you guys can make it.
Yeah. Amazing. So I'll say to everyone out there, let's say thank you to Lyle, and if you guys have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask. But thank you so much to you guys. Keep searching and stay mythical.